Hello. Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for having me here. And thank you for joining the session, regardless of, having a lunch at this time. So, uh, so this is my topic for today. We'll be looking at some of the newer challenges that businesses are facing while creating AI models or generative AI models for that matter. Uh, So, first of all, I'd like to give a context and objective about what this talk is all about. So, starting off with, let's see how AI is transforming multiple domains like healthcare is there, finances are there, and multiple manufacturing lines of businesses are now enabled with artificial intelligence. But it's not always gardens and butterflies. जहाँ पे अच्छा होता है वहाँ पे बुरा भी होता है. To create a balance, there is always bad to the good. And with और हमने स्पाइडरमैन की मूवीज से सुना था कि with great power comes great responsibilities, right? So let's look at some potential risks to businesses that are currently using AI in their lines of businesses, and some of the mitigation strategies for these risks, for that matter. So let's look at the threat landscape actually. So these, although not all of them, but these are some of the more common, I would say, attacks that are happening right now. Ransomware. If you're not aware of the term ransomware, it's basically keeping a victim's machine as captive and demanding something. So this something is usually money or payment in the form of mostly crypto. Uh, so so hackers ask for this ransom, and therefore by that they sort of decrypt the data later on, which is again not confirmed itself. So second point being the data breach. Data breaches, although not a attack as such, it can be an attack or it can be caused by an internal threat as well, or it can be caused by mistake as well. So it's not technically an attack, but it is still one of the uh, one of the more common threats that are happening throughout industry right now. And another common attack type which I have noticed is a supply chain attack. So what supply chain attacks are basically, the hacker basically targets a vendor, and through that vendor, the primary uh, organization is being targeted. So let's say, I'll give you an example here. So recently, there was an attack that happened on Starbucks. So Starbucks, it wasn't primarily on Starbucks, but it was on its vendor called Blue Yonder. So Blue Yonder is basically an AI-driven supply chain uh, company, and through that, multiple uh, multiple instances were sort of affected for Starbucks and many other US and UK companies. So again, another example I can give here is like the CrowdStrike attack. So CrowdStrike being a vendor for Microsoft. So again, this not being a cyber attack as such, but it can still disrupt business across the whole globe. Yes, sir. So let's look at some of the impacts that happen on business uh, because of uh, because of these kinds of attacks. So first and foremost, being the financial losses. So as you may know, cybersecurity is a very there's a lot of money involved in this domain. If a financial loss happens, it usually happens in millions or even billions if the company is large enough. And to be very honest, financial it, these crimes, the financial losses happening because of these crimes, is expected to be over 10 trillion by the end of this year, which is something to worry about, of course. So second being the reputational harm. Of course, अगर आपकी कंपनी हैक होती है तो फिर आपके वेंडर्स या फिर आपके क्लाइंट्स आपको क्वेश्चन कर सकते हैं कि हाउ कैन आई ट्रस्ट यू, हम आपके सर्विसेज लेते हैं, हाउ कैन आई ट्रस्ट यू एज अ कंपनी, हम आपके पास हमारा डेटा होता है, एंड ऑल अदर थिंग्स एक्चुअली. सो ऑब्वियसली देयर इज रेपुटेशनल हार्म दैट इज इन्वॉल्व इन अ breach of any level actually, matlab irrespective of it being a small business or a larger business. And again, regulatory penalties is something I think a lot of the cybersecurity experts kind of tend to forget. Even I did initially. So regulatory penalties such as let's say we hold data, we hold personal information or health information or card information. So we are sort of obligated to follow some of the regulations, such as for health we have to follow the HIPAA rules. For the card data we have to follow the PCI DSS rules, and under that also there's multiple levels like level 1, level 2, level 3, and all of these I think whenever an organization fails to follow the regulatory law or the regulations, there's multiple penalties which can go as high as $20 million as well. So yeah, this is one of the stats that I was able to recover, and from the last PPT I mentioned that the crime rate can go up, the losses can go up to over $10 trillion. So this is the graph we can see, and it's not a linear graph, it's more of an exponential graph. So which says that okay, it is a topic of concern that we have to sort of deal with. Okay, so AI is a double-edged sword. Here, let's look at some of the positives before going to what the challenges are here. So benefits actually, there's multiple products in the industry, such as next-gen firewalls. A lot of those firewalls use machine learning and AI-based techniques to identify anomalies. And even some of the user behavior analysis is done using AI nowadays. So because of that, what is happening is the AI models or these systems can anticipate attacks more easily as compared to a human can. So now let's look at some of the emerging risks that are possible here. So of course, first point being the ethical use of AI models. So the data we collect to train our AI models on. So how do we know that this data is correct or even legal for that matter? So, I'm sorry. So next point being the malicious data injection. If you were here for the last presentation, actually, there was a very good example of data injection for ChatGPT or even other AI models as well. So that is still an emerging risk, even though a lot of it is being patched upon and worked upon. And again, as I mentioned, regulatory and compliance challenges. So we don't know how the data that we use, how much of it is legal in that matter. And if there's health information that is being collected, let's say a hospital is using AI in their systems. So obviously they are collecting health data from multiple patients and all. So they have to make sure that the data doesn't go out. There's no data breach happening. And so they have to sort of follow the HIPAA rules and other health-related compliances that are out there in the industry right now. So yeah, some of the real-world cases out here where the AI systems have sort of not worked very well. So the Tesla autopilot crash, I think it's a 2018 scenario where the car wasn't able to recognize some of the people around or even the vehicles around, and it was a very fatal crash that happened. So next being the Microsoft chatbot incident. So this chatbot is basically the Tay chatbot, if you couldn't tell. And the Tay chatbot, what happened was basically when they made the chatbot public for use, people started using, and not very long after that, the chatbot was sort of giving racist or even biased responses. So that is one example we can see of data injection that works in place over here. And again, Cambridge Analytica is a very famous case that happened. So in this, the AI-based tools were used for micro-targeting the voters that were there during the US elections. Okay, so let's look at some of the ways a risk can be treated. So there's 4 main ways you can treat a risk. Risk avoidance. So what this means is you just avoid it completely. अगर AI से आपको risk हो रही है तो AI use ही मत करो. So this is what this method says. Second being the risk acceptance. Risk acceptance is basically, okay, if my company is using AI, so I'll just accept कि okay, हाँ, अगर cyber attack होता है तो होने दो. So this case is usually multiple companies use this method when the solution or the mitigation processes are usually expensive than the cyber attack or the financial losses created by the cyber attack itself. Third being the risk transfer. Something like a cyber insurance can help over here, where you can transfer the financial losses to an insurance company. And finally, the risk mitigation. So risk mitigation is, again, something that you as an organization, as an employee of the organization, make sure that, okay, how can we reduce the risk that is happening? So let's look at some of the mitigation and, again, some of the common threats that are out there. So adversarial attacks. So this is very similar to data injection, actually. So you provide the AI model with wrong or even incorrect data. So which is why the output given by these models hampers by a lot. So this can be very devastating in cases like, let's say, a self-driving car. If there's an adversarial attack in case of a self-driving car, something like the Tesla accident can happen again. And not forgetting about the health-related companies, if there's a similar attack of this kind on health-based systems, obviously it can lead to death of your patients and things like that. So some of the mitigation steps which I found to be useful were obviously training your models on the adversarial data sets will help by a lot, actually. And techniques like explainable AI, that is now a new concept that is there, where we are able to explain how AI is making decisions and how AI is making decisions. So these are some of the steps which I found to be useful, and I think these can be used by organizations. So next being the intellectual property misuse. So what happens in this type of attack is basically I give it let's say I'm an attacker. I give this AI model some prompt. It will give me some outputs. So by this, I'll create a database and train my own model on it. So what I'm doing is basically, I'm just taking, I'm just recreating the training of someone else's model. So this can be replicated on, you can do this on maybe ChatGPT or some other language models like Gemini as well. You can give it prompts, it can give you responses, you can create a database, and you can create a model similar to those, and maybe even monetize those in some cases. So to avoid this, I think the best step to implement is that you embed digital watermarks into the AI models. So the image generation model by OpenAI, which is DALI, it has digital watermarks to those models. So you cannot really, I mean, you can try, but you'll fall into the IP misuse kind of scenario. Okay, so third, I'd like to talk about, again, regulatory compliances. हम कौन सा data use करते हैं, कहाँ से आता है वो data. So again, we have to make sure that the AI we use is safe for people, and we follow multiple regulatory compliances. जैसे GDPR हो गया, CCPA is there in US, and now DPDP Act is going to come in India. So following the guidelines mentioned in the regulatory documents is I think essential for us as responsible people of the society, that we make sure that this happens. So by this I actually conclude my talk, and so my conclusion points are basically that AI is everywhere. You can see that in a conference of cybersecurity, everyone is still talking about AI. So AI as an industry has transformed every other industry. It has affected every other thing. And by understanding the threats that are there in the industry, we can adopt proactive measures, and businesses can innovate safely by that. So thank you for your time. I'd be happy to take your questions if there are any.
The floor is open for questions. Please raise your hands if you have any. Okay, looks like we have no questions. So yeah, please give a big round of applause for Abhang. And if you have any questions, he'll be over here. Thank you.